Years ago, I purchased an iPhone 13 Pro Max, even though it was August. Yes, go ahead and roll your eyes, but that was because I had no excitement for the iPhone 14 series coming out the next month. And thankfully, I was right to not be excited about that phone. It was rather lackluster, but to my surprise, I kind of felt the same way about the iPhone 13 Pro Max too. In fact, 6 months later, I popped my SIM card out of this phone and shoved it back into my iPhone XS Max and used that as my daily driver. And since then, I hadn't really looked back. But during that whole time, I never completely stopped using the 13 Pro Max either. What do you think has been recording the majority of my videos for the past 3 years? And because my 3-year contract with AT&T is up, I will be boxing this iPhone back up, sending it back to them, and see if the new phone I bought from them on contract is good enough to replace both this phone and my XS Max. Cause this time, I think my XS Max is officially ready to retire. But this video isn't about that new phone. That will come in the future. Today, I'm going to wrap up my 3 years experience with the 13 Pro Max. Let's begin! I'll start off with how well this phone has physically aged. And because Apple has a high reputation of being a quality brand, this phone is certainly no exception. It has spent most of its time in a case with a built-in screen protector, but that's pretty much when I have it in the shop at my place of employment. Let's just say I work with many extremely sharp objects. Outside of the shop though, it's case off. To my surprise, the stainless steel is pretty much unscuffed and the Sierra Blue back glass is also nearly perfect. However, I can't exactly say the same about the display. The scratches aren't immediately noticeable, but they definitely are present. Not sure if Apple's ceramic shield had any influence in the durability, but that's what I have to present to you today. The buttons are still just as clicky as on day one. The lightning connector, however, doesn't work. Well, 90% of the time. I think a metal chip got in there and potentially shorted or just damaged the contacts within the port, but nonetheless, it doesn't really work anymore. Hopefully that doesn't affect my trade-in value. Please take it, AT&T. I really don't want it anymore. The speakers are okay. They aren't as pristine as they were out of the box, but compared to the condition of my XS Max speakers are in right now, far better. As for cameras, just watch any of my recent videos. I'll let you be the judge. Okay, that was how it aged. Let's dive into the experience. I did find a few things about this phone that I really came to appreciate, such as the ultra-wide lens. This is my first phone to have a proper ultra-wide camera that can record 4K at 60 FPS. This was the first iPhone to have 120 Hz, and even though I've stated so many times that 60 Hz isn't a deal breaker, that did not mean I didn't appreciate the higher refresh rate. And as someone who prioritizes screen real estate, the extra 0.2 inches over my XS Max's 6.5 inch display is definitely noticeable. And even though my battery is officially at 89% of its original capacity, at least as of the time of writing, I could still easily use it for 2 to 3 days straight. And this is using it as my work phone. Now, if I'm recording a bunch of YouTube videos for YouTube, that 2 to 3 day battery life quickly becomes more of a 2 to 3 hour battery life. But considering I'm always near chargers either at work, home, or in the car, that abnormal usage is no issue, assuming I don't need to use the charge port. And before iOS 18, the software was extremely snappy and responsive, and thanks to the ProMotion panel, extra smooth. But honestly, that pretty much sums up the positive things I have to say about this phone. The first thing that immediately stood out to me happened the first time I picked up the device. The way these square edges just cut into my hand felt so wrong since the very beginning. I denounced the 12 line for coming out with square edges before it was even announced. While most people praise the change because it looks new, I was the one trying to explain to everyone that this new design was going to be uncomfortable to hold. And it certainly was uncomfortable to hold. Also, have I mentioned just how hideous this camera layout is? How have we not moved on from this atrocity yet? And the sad part is, the 17 Pro isn't going to make things any better next month. And now that the iPhone has USB-C, the lightning connector on this phone really dates this device. I'm not one to use the port frequently, as I primarily wirelessly charge my devices, but because my car doesn't support wireless CarPlay, I'm stuck using the plug. That sums up my complaints with the hardware. Unfortunately, I have to explain a bunch of complaints regarding the software. And there are a bunch, thanks to iOS 18. Initially, when I bought the phone, the experience was really smooth and snappy. But as time went on, that smoothness and snappiness slowly made way for bugs and glitches. The most common issues I've experienced on this device in particular were wireless connectivity, struggling to connect to networks and devices, wacky volume levels, iMessage occasionally refusing to send a message, and not recording any activity of my Apple Watch. Yes, when I paired my Apple Watch to this thing, it refused to record any physical activity. I've also seen plenty of graphical issues such as the AirPods animation getting stuck, volume indicators getting stuck, and the keyboard freezing. Now, I've gone enough about how frustrating iOS 18 has been for the past year, so I probably don't need to go any further. It's still annoying, however, that this is still an issue. At the end of the day, this was never a bad phone. There are plenty of other phones out there that rank much lower than this one. But at the same time, nothing in particular wowed me either. It's just a good phone that unfortunately is now suffering from the wrath of Apple no longer giving a shit about software and a failed charge port on my end. And at the end of the day, this is just my experience with the device. If you still love your iPhone 13 Pro Max and have no interest in getting rid of it, more power to you. But I knew that my time with this phone was coming to an end with the bugs and charge port. I need them to function. So farewell, iPhone 13 Pro Max. You were pretty okay. Thanks for watching, and do us a favor and interact with the buttons below. Also, do me a favor and check out my Patreon page. I would very much appreciate that. This is the Random Alpha Gadgets, signing out. It was rather lackluster, but to my surprise, my iPad is behaving weirdly again, because why wouldn't it? What do you think has been recording the majority of my... Oh. Nope, that's gotta be one take. And my XS Max. It froze again. I hate this teleprompter app, it's terrible. To my surprise, the stainless steel... I can't say the same about the display, however, it does not... Wow, that's a poorly written sentence. I don't even know what I wrote. Okay, that was pretty much the experience I found... Wow. That was not... I did not write this sentence. I need to proofread these more. I found a few things about this phone that Oh, nope. This is what you have to improv when you can't write a script properly. And as someone who prioritizes screen real estate, the extra point... Oh. Forgot to unlock the phone.